All right, welcome all you sports fans here.
True.
What? What are you? You
I just
interrupted my intro, dude. What the
I know.
hell? Throw
Just
me
start
off my
over.
game.
3,
All right,
2, 1.
all right, welcome all you sports fans to Unapologetic with Chet and Duffy. I am Chet, and of course, to my left is my wonderful counterpart, Duffy. Duffy, how are we doing today, man? I know it's been a rough week for me, but hopefully the week's going good for you so far.
Yeah, Chet had a little bit of a rough patch of a week. A little bit of internal drama.
Yeah, internal drama, and then of course you got my car, and that's why I'm actually not in Narragansett. I am back in my home in North Smithfield. Instead of a Patriots banner, I got a autographed Pawtucket Red Sox poster. Who cares, really? I mean, it's the Pawtucket Red Sox. No longer the Pawtucket Red Sox anymore. Heading to Worcester.
The Worcester Paw Sox. Yeah.
Yeah.
Little fender bender over the week. That's rough, but happy we're back in the same town.
Yeah,
and great to the show to you tonight, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Ready to talk some sports. So, hopping right into it, free agency is just around the corner. It's going to be next Wednesday is when it officially starts at 4 p.m., which means here on Unapologetic, we will be covering free agent frenzy as it happens. Only for an hour, though. So hopefully within the 7 to 8 o'clock period, we do get some major free agent signings. But they'll probably happen closer to 4 o'clock or earlier in the day. So we'll have all the time to discuss that. But right now, we're going to hop into it and talk about some big franchise tag moments that have happened earlier this week. There's a lot of them. So first, we're going to talk about the major tags, and then we're going to talk about the tags that didn't happen. And these players will be heading into free agency this upcoming week. So hopping right into it, Tim. Duffy, I apologize.
Yeah, that's my government.
Yeah, the government alias.
We see at least once a week where Chet slips the real.
It's so hard, man. It's so hard.
So habitual view. Yeah, but I'm excited for this free agency. Chet.
So Duffy, what is the most jarring free? Well, let's go with this. Which franchise tag do you think was crucial to the team for any NFL team in the league to keep?
A really big franchise tag, in my opinion, and it's kind of an obvious one, but I'm just going to go right off the bat with an easy one. I'm going to say Allen Robinson of the Chicago Bears, and he was a guy that a lot of teams were on the radar, teams that need a receiver, such as the Patriots, as we both were talking about these last couple of weeks. But with Allen Robinson, the Bears keep him, and we know the Bears are looking to trade for a big-name quarterback, whether it's Deshaun Watson or Russ Wilson. We've seen reports for both of them, and that's a big acquisition to keep him because he's the best receiver on the team. He's the biggest playmaker on their offense. And if they want to reel in one of these quarterbacks, and especially with Deshaun Watson, who has a no trade clause, he's going to have to approve whatever team he goes to.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to need playmakers like Allen Robinson, which is huge to keep him, huge to retain him. And I think that was the most critical franchise tag of the week, honestly, because that was really unexpected too, because we saw a lot of things that A-Rob had a couple teams on his list that he was eyeing to go to if he hit free agency, teams that he was willing to play for. So the Bears tagging him, keeping him on that team, keeping him secured on that offense, I think that was arguably the biggest one of the week.
Yeah, that's definitely a huge franchise tag right there. And I mean, when you look to see what Allen Robinson really brought to the Chicago Bears this season, 102 receptions, that's sixth in the NFL. 1,250 receiving yards, that's ninth in the league. With 6 touchdowns, excellent season. Allen Robinson has proven since he came from the Jacksonville Jaguars, he keeps trending upwards. His production keeps going up. It doesn't matter who's throwing to him, whether it's Nick Foles or Mitch Trubisky. This guy knows how to get out open, whether it's downfield or in the end zone. He's a crucial target for you as a quarterback, and that's huge for the Bears as a franchise because, I mean, you're talking about getting somebody like Allen Robinson from the Jacksonville Jaguars, where if you look at his statistics there, they weren't as spectacular. 2015 was a big year for him, and that was, of course, when the Jacksonville Jaguars made it to the AFC Championship game.
That was 2017. I hate to fact you, but
that's true. He was injured.
He tore his ACL week 1.
That's right.
We've seen him go to the Bears since. That was the last time he played for the Jaguars, 2017 week 1. Mm-hmm. 17-yard catch, tore his ACL on his first big game of the season. But since he's gone to the Bears, like you were saying, Chet, despite inconsistent quarterback play, whether it was Nick Foles or Trubisky, 200 catches in the last 2 years.
Yes.
And there's a lot of question marks how he would do in Chicago, excuse me. He's never had a good quarterback in his career, if we're going to be honest. Blake Bortles, Trubisky, and Nick Foles. I mean, if what he can do with an elite quarterback is scary because he is one of the best deep threat receivers in the league. He gets open really easily.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a great target, man.
Yeah, and I mean, he's just production wise, it's only going to go up if we see a player like Deshaun Watson or Russell Wilson come to this team. Because I mean, honestly, if they franchise tagged him, it means the Bears. I really think the Bears have a plan going into this offseason. I really think because they made the playoffs last year, just barely snuck in. And the thing is,
somehow,
and
some way.
The thing with the Bears is that defense, it's scary good. But that offense has its moments. This season, we saw definitely an uptick in production. But the problem is the quarterback. The quarterback is easily the toughest position for that team to get right. Yeah. I think we mentioned last week, or we've mentioned between each other outside of the podcast, the Bears have not had a 4,000-yard passer in franchise history.
That's unbelievable.
It's an unbelievable stat.
Or 30 touchdown passes from a quarterback in a season.
So you're talking about Russell Wilson and Deshaun Watson, who have both passed for over 4,000 passing yards at least once in their career. These are guys who are both mobile quarterbacks, very similar to what we see out of Mitch Trubisky over there in Chicago. And I think with David Montgomery and Allen Robinson at their disposal, as well as a few other receivers there in the mix, I think this is a good uptick in production for them to get somebody like Deshaun Watson or Russell Wilson. The time will tell. So we'll see what happens in the next coming weeks. But to make my pick for the most crucial franchise tag, I think it's got to be Chris Godwin for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Pictured in the middle right here, baby. Chris Godwin.
Chris Godwin. I mean, last season, the year before, an amazing year. This season, we did see a little downfall in his production. Granted, he was injured. 65 catches, 840 yards, and 7 touchdowns. But then in the playoffs, Chris Godwin was just unbelievable, man. I mean, just seeing that's a guy who just found a way to get open. And I remember, I'm pretty sure it was Troy Aikman jinxed him in the Green Bay Packers game and said, he's going to lose confidence. And we talked about this so many times. And Chris Godwin remember that 50-yard bomb he caught? That was unbelievable.
I hear Chris Godwin's name now. That's kind of the first play that comes to mind. That bobble catch, because that really set the momentum for him in that game. I think that was a third down, I think. Mm-hmm. The Bucs were just dealing on third down that game. And tagging Chris Godwin is going to be huge because with Chris Godwin back, you keep that offense intact. Chris Godwin last year with Jameis Winston, 2019, 2 years ago now, 1,300 yards. Like you were saying, Chet, banged up year, only had 65 catches, but still just shy of 900 yards receiving, which is crazy. And with an offense with so much talent, so much production, you got guys like Gronk, AB, Mike Evans, obviously the veteran, and even Scotty Miller, who's got a lot of targets early in the year and throughout the season. Keeping Chris Godwin in that core is going to be huge for the Bucs. And I think they really think they can run it back, go back to back. And for a guy like Chris Godwin, who's been on this team for a while, it's going to be his 5th year on the team next year. I think if he balls out this year, he's going to be in for a payday next offseason because, he's one of the best young elite receivers in the league, obviously. And I think he's due.
I think he's due too because, I mean, this kid is just legit in every category when it comes to you're talking about a guy who can burst out right out of the gate and just make a quick move on his routes. He's a smart route runner. And he has great hands and great concentration. That's just an all-around receiver that I would want for my team. And I'm pretty sure maybe the Patriots would have taken a look at him if he had hit the open market. Granted, that's speculation. This is a guy who deserves a payday, and the Patriots are known for not paying guys right up front like that. And, of course, New England is in a situation where we don't have a quarterback to really go to as of right now. So time will tell, but this is a great pickup for them to really get him back on the team and get him back with Mike Evans, with Antonio Brown, and with Tom Brady and that Tampa Bay Bucs offense. I think they're golden here. So, Duffy, let's hear another franchise tag that you like or maybe dislike.
I was going to tell you about a guy who wasn't franchise tagged, actually, who said to open the free market. Now we're on the page of receivers, so I want to talk about Kenny Galladay. You know,
That's a big one.
Guy who wasn't franchise tagged. You know, entering his 5th year in the league, his rookie contract's up. You know, another receiver with a banged up injury last year. I would know he's on my fantasy team, and I think he only played like 6 games for me all year. It was tough. He's been on that team the last 2 years actually, but he's a stud. And a lot of these receiver hungry teams are gonna be looking at him, you know, as another option for receivers because Godwin and who's the other guy we talked about again? Godwin. Who's the first guy we just talked about, dude? A-Rob. You know,
yeah.
Those are the top 2 receivers on the market, and Galladay. I think he's on number 1 now with both these guys getting tagged. You know, he's an elite receiver, elite playmaker. You know, can get those one-on-ones on the outside. You know, get those jump balls. He pretty much won them the game against the Falcons, if you remember that. I think it was in week 7 or something early in the season where he caught, pretty much a Hail Mary that set him up 1st and goal in the last play of the game. So, he's a very elite, skillful, playmaker, and the Lions not tagging him, it really speaks volumes to this rebuild that they're going to undergo these next few years with Stafford getting traded obviously a month ago, and
interesting bringing Goff into the situation for a rebuild.
Yeah, it's interesting because now you're giving Goff nothing, which sucks. Galladay's the best player on that offense. It's really no question. You got young guys like DeAndre Swift, Marvin Jones. You still got him on the team, but Kenny Galladay, banged up season did hurt his payday a little bit. I think coming into free agency that he would have received maybe if it was the season he had last year. But team's gonna take a look at him, and someone's gonna offer him a lot of money.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely due for a payday. I mean, you see in the 2018 and 2019 season, in 2018, 1,063 receiving yards and 5 touchdowns. Then in 2019, 1,190 receiving yards and 11 touchdowns. Each season, close. He was just about, well, in 2018, he was 1 catch short of 120. Excuse me. Sorry, I'm looking at targets. But in receptions,
there's no way Galladay had 119.
Yeah, I was going to say, Jesus, like, what am I reading here? But even though he hasn't reached 100 catches in a single season, this is a guy who, if he gets in the right system, we could see an uptick in that production for him. Because you're talking about the Lions. The Detroit Lions constantly are in games when they're down, and Matt Stafford is under duress every second of the game, and I'm pretty sure we've seen him sacked more times than most quarterbacks in recent years. So for Galladay, being injured this season may have helped to get him out of that toxic system that is a losing franchise. And
definitely a blessing in disguise for sure.
It definitely is a blessing in disguise. 20 receptions this year for only 338 receiving yards and only 2 touchdowns to end off his 2020.
Fantasy bust. He sucked.
An absolute bust, obviously.
Yeah, obviously, he's a bust. He got hurt, but he's a big playmaker.
Absolutely.
What team, do you think is in need for a guy like Galladay? Career average 17 yards per catch. He's a big play down the field type of guy, and I can think of a lot of teams off the top of my head. And I don't know if you agree, but I think the Baltimore Ravens, they should take a look at Kenny Galladay.
I think that's a good pick right there. The Baltimore Ravens, of course, we know that Hollywood Brown has really been their main target, their main guy, and of course Mark Andrews. But besides that, Willie Snead,
nobody.
Willie Snead, that's gross. Like, get that out of here. I mean, they definitely could use him. Another team that I think could use him could be the San Francisco 49ers. Wow. I think that team could definitely benefit from his talent. Of course, you're talking about definitely a payroll that might not be able to afford him. But if they could figure out some way to get him, that could definitely help their offense in a way that could really uptick their production. But I think the main team that probably should take a look at him is the New York Jets. The New York Jets are in desperate need of some sort of talent. The Jets. Yes.
They got a lot of money.
I think if this team wants to get back in the conversation now and start using what they've got towards a rebuild with talent, I think bringing in a veteran presence like Kenny Galladay, a young guy still who you can shape into anything you want at this point, I think he can fit into that system and mature into that system because I think the Jets are due at some point to get better. I think they're hitting the stride now where they could potentially see an uptick.
Yeah.
The Patriots, sad as it is, I feel like I'm just saying our time could be over now. And
Yeah.
it could be time for these other teams to start working their way up. We'll see.
Yeah, obviously we're gonna have a little bit of a slump, 20-year greatness stretch. Can't last 25. We're asking for too much. But with Galladay, I mean the Jets, that's interesting. I personally don't think he'd want to go to the Jets because unless they give him the bag, if you're an NFL player getting $5 million more than another team, I'm taking that $5 million.
Absolutely.
I'm at that point in life when I was younger. I was like, damn, I want to go to a winning team, but I'm like, no, take the payday.
But I think the other team that could definitely be a good fit for him would be the Miami Dolphins.
That's interesting too.
I think the Miami Dolphins do have. I think they have what it takes to suddenly turn that offense around because we've seen bright moments with the Miami Dolphins offense, especially when they're clicking. When they're clicking, they're good. And this is a young team that definitely has taken what they've used in the draft and have made very good trades to make themselves, and signings, of course, to make themselves in the conversation. They were nearly in the playoffs. This could help them get to the playoffs, signing a guy like Kenny Golladay to the receiving corps.
Yeah. And they were really close last year, going 10-6. Kenny Golladay would take a lot of pressure off Tua Tagovailoa, who really didn't have a whole lot of plethora of deep threats last year. Other than Devontae Parker, who was inconsistent all year. Obviously Mike Gesicki's a huge tight end too, but I don't see him going to any of these teams honestly, especially not the Jets. I don't really think he'd want to endure back all these losing teams, all these broken cultures. Really, in my opinion. So that's why I think he's going to go to a team like the Ravens. And I'm gonna stamp it right here on Unapologetic. Kenny Golladay will sign with the Baltimore Ravens. I'm telling you right now, he signed with the Baltimore Ravens. I don't know why, it's my intuition. But you're looking at a guy like Lamar, who has been criticized so much for his lack of passing ability, lack of explosive big passing plays, because he's had no one to throw to. That's the kind of thing we look at. We looked at Lamar's stats from 2019. He had 35 touchdown passes, in the MVP season, throwing to the same guys he had last year, who were pretty bad. He had he has a Patriots-esque receiving core with a better tight end. That's pretty much it. This Ravens offense is not good, on the outside. Kenny Golladay would take off a lot of pressure off Lamar, take off a lot of pressure off of Hollywood Brown too. I think Hollywood Brown, he's not a receiver one. He's a receiver two at most.
Yeah.
I think if you get a bona fide receiver one like Kenny Golladay, who passes the eye test, you look at him and you're like, he is a really good receiver in the NFL. He can play football. You don't look at Hollywood Brown and you say that. With Mark Andrews too, he's also a reliable player too. So if you have those three guys lined up on the same field at one time, they tried with Des Bryant last year. He's up there in age. He has a really similar play style as Kenny Golladay.
Yeah,
deep balls, but I think Kenny Golladay, he's a younger Dez, and that sounds kind of crazy. But if you watch them play, I think they're very similar to each other. They make separation down the field. They get open on those deep shots. They're great at jump balls. And that's what the Ravens have been missing. You've seen a lot of picks where Lamar threw last year that were off of jump balls. Remember that one of the Titans game in the playoffs to Hollywood Brown? That was a terrible throw. That was a jump ball that had no chance. Hollywood Brown is 5'10". It won't catch over Malcolm Butler, who's 6'2". It's not going to work.
No.
So I think if you got an explosive playmaker like Golladay, and really, add some more relevance to this Ravens offense, which didn't really have much last year. They weren't as explosive of a team to watch. I think it'll really rejuvenate the culture in this organization if they can just get some deep passes down the field. I think Galladay's going to be a perfect guy for that situation, man.
I totally agree with you right there. I mean, that's a good fit for him, but I still think that the Miami Dolphins will try and make a run for this guy, and I think
they will too.
I think they got it.
Sweepstakes, man. They're gonna be bidding. They're gonna be bidding for this dude.
Oh yeah, there's gonna be a lot of bids for him. But I think the biggest franchise tag that, of course, most people are talking about that didn't happen is Aaron Jones. And honestly, there is a little surprise behind it. But I mean, I'm kind of confused as to why the Green Bay Packers wouldn't want to go and re-sign a guy who is as productive as Aaron Jones has been for this team. And I mean, looking at the stats here, as soon as I pull them up, one moment, right here.
Chet wasn't ready for that. I think he had like 1,200 yards off top of the dome, probably something like that last year.
But you're talking about a consistent running back, and this is a dude who came out of nowhere for this team and really showed how productive he is at the position. 201 attempts, that's 10th in the league this season. 1,104 rushing yards, that is 4th in rushing in the NFL this season.
My ballpark estimate was kind of close. I said 1,200.
It was close.
And then have been 4 yards off.
And that's a few yards higher than the season before when he reached his first 1,000-yard season with 1,084 rushing yards. 16 touchdowns the year before, but 9, not bad. And of course, to top it off with 2 touchdowns, that's 11 touchdowns. This is a huge piece to the Packers offense that they will be missing. This is a guy who could get open and make catches downfield to really move the chains and get this team up the field, or he could run the ball and power his way through and use his agility and finesse to get around defenders. The Packers are going to miss this dude, but I mean, it's kind of tough for me to see why he wouldn't want to stay with a successful team like them. But the problem is the Packers time and time again go to the playoffs and choke every time. And I think he's sick of it. And he may want a big payday and go with a team that's on their way on the come up. But who knows? Maybe he'll take a pay cut and sign with a championship team. But for me,
I think Green Bay is a championship team, don't you think?
I think so too, but I think the past few seasons with what Rodgers has delivered and the Packers themselves, they have just proven that they are not going to do it, at least in their lifetime. So for Aaron Jones, the most obvious choice right now for him to go is the Miami Dolphins. The Miami Dolphins are in desperate need of a running back right now, and Aaron Jones has all the talent in the world and the statistics to provide those services. And Miami, they've got themselves a pretty solid old line down there. We saw moments where Jordan Howard and Matt Breida and players like
Myles
Gaskin,
who's really good.
Yeah, Myles Gaskin had a great season last year with the Miami Dolphins. And the thing is, I think Aaron Jones will bring the production rate up so high for the Miami Dolphins and their run game going down the stretch.
Yeah, and that's kind of the word on all these NFL rumor pages is that Aaron Jones should sign up Miami. And we've seen that a lot. It makes sense too because Miami, they have the cap space to sign a big name running back. He's going to want a lot of money. Aaron Jones, we might see maybe like $40 or $50 million go his way potentially, which, every time you're paying much for running back, it is risky. Obviously it's the most injury prone position in the game. They're really replaceable running backs, if we're going to be honest. But Aaron Jones is different, man. 25 rush touchdowns the last 2 years. He's like a more elusive and more explosive LeGarrette Blount, in my opinion. Because, he's dominant in the red zone. That's what we saw from LeGarrette Blount.
Mm-hmm.
What you see from a lot of these guys. And Aaron Jones can make plays to the outside. One play that comes to mind is that 75-yard touchdown against the Eagles where he just, shut off multiple defenders, weaved his way through everybody, got in for 6. So I think Miami, if they sign him, it's going to be really good signing. It's going to really, like you were saying, if they sign Kenny Golladay, they're not going to get them both, probably, but it would take off a lot of pressure off of Tua. Give him some more weapons, give him a really bona fide running back in Aaron Jones. And he's working with all these young guys like Myles Gaskin, who, he had some good games, but he's no Aaron Jones. So I think, wherever team he goes to is going to be in need for a running back. I don't see him going to a team that is going to have a, running back committee because he's going to want a lot of money. He's going to be a 3-down back for any team that's going to sign him. And, I'm excited to see what he can do, man.
I absolutely agree. But if I were to compare
him on those fantasy lists next year, dude.
Yeah, but you want to know, that's an interesting point that you make about LeGarrette Blount. For me, I'm going to go a different Patriots running back for this one. I see Aaron Jones more of a more better and more talented James White.
That was funny.
More better. A much better and more talented version of James White.
Yeah.
Because you're talking about a guy who definitely is involved in the pass game time and time again. Rodgers is either going to throw to, I'm so bad with names tonight. Devontae Adams and Aaron Jones.
Lazard.
Those are the two guys he's going to look for first downfield. Because Aaron Jones, he's usually not going to just run off to the flats, really. He's really going to run up the middle and be waiting for Rodgers right there. Or they'll put him on a lot of elusive different routes. But the thing is, he can run the ball, unlike James White. James White is an all-down receiving back. This guy has proven that he's a multi-dimensional running back. And Aaron Jones provides so much to any team that's looking at him right now. But right now, I think the Miami Dolphins have it right here in the bag, according to what most of the league says in rumors. But who knows? Who knows? Free agent. That's why it's called free agent frenzy.
Because it's the best week of the entire NFL season.
Honestly,
the middle of March. It's the best week of the whole year.
Oh yeah.
It's really not, but it's definitely in the top 15.
Well, it's definitely
top 15. I'm gonna say week 1 is up there. Super Bowl week is definitely number 1. This beats all of the summer, though. I'm gonna be honest.
It does.
Maybe it's ahead of draft day, in my opinion.
But it gets you excited.
Because you see all these big name players going to get their bags, going to get moving around the league, and it's really going to shift up the power rankings going into next year. We're going to see a lot of these teams, shift. And we saw it last year with the Buccaneers, signing Tom Brady and trading for Gronk from the Patriots.
Mm-hmm.
And they're Super Bowl champions now. So, free agency frenzy is where a lot of things can go down. A lot of contenders are made. And, very seldom do we see, huge free agent acquisitions that last a long time, like Drew Brees. But you never know, man. We could get it this year, and with some quarterbacks on the move too. But these playmakers are going to be huge for a team that gets them, and they're going to become instantly better as a result.
Absolutely. So we're going to take a quick break real quick, but when we get back, we're going to pick some top players off the free agency list who are free agents right now, waiting for teams to sign them. And we're going to talk about where they're going to go. Stay tuned.
Peace.
All right, welcome back to Unapologetic with Chet and Duffy. So right now we're going to go over some key free agents, some of the top free agents that are out there in the market right now for teams to pick up. Duffy, why don't you start us off with your top free agent?
All right. We did talk about a couple of those guys, Jones and Golladay. It's going to be tough for me to think of one off the dome right now. But guy who I think is a big free agent.
I can start if you want.
Trent Williams, dude.
Definitely.
Trent Williams, 33 years old, left tackle on the Niners. He's a huge free agent. A lot of these teams looking for, offensive line help, and he could be huge for any team that takes him. He's getting up there in age, like I said, 33 years old, but he'd be a big piece to any team. He's gonna be looking for a payday also, because left tackle, besides quarterback, is the most important position in the NFL, arguably. So protecting that blind side, Trent Williams gonna have a big payday. I've seen him on a lot of lists, in those top free agent lists, and good thing I studied that earlier today. But not much I can say about Trent Williams with stats because he has a left tackle, but he would be a big acquisition to any team that got him.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Trent Williams, longtime Washington Redskins player, and
future Hall of Famer.
Future Hall of Famer for sure. I mean, this guy is 6'5". But besides being 6'5", he's just got a lot of build to him, and it's not just fat. That dude's got muscle. I wouldn't want to meet that dude in a bar to fight him. I would rather share a drink with the man. But regardless, being with the San Francisco 49ers, he has seen a very good upside to his career there. Because, I mean, you're talking about a guy who comes in after Joe Staley has finally retired. They need a left tackle, and they go and get Trent Williams, and that's great. I mean, this dude, he's only 33 years old. He's definitely on the last limb for most tackles for the most part. Some tackles stay until they're 38. I mean, Andrew Whitworth is a great example of that before he retired. But for the most part, Trent Williams has provided consistency for both teams that he's played on throughout his career. The Redskins kept him for nearly 10 years of his career. So, I mean, for this guy, it's going to be crucial for a team to pick him up. And I mean, trying to think of a team right now that could really use him. And if I had to pick one, it could be the Denver Broncos, in my opinion. I think the Denver Broncos are kind of struggling with their tackles and their guard positions. I mean, I think adding Trent Williams as a veteran player to that O-line could really help the talents of Philip Lindsay and Melvin Gordon to really gain production in a team that still has some of the last glimmer of what once was that Super Bowl 50 defense that they have. They need some help on that offense, though. And I mean, it seems like they're still going to stick with Drew Lock, but they need protection in that pocket for him, because there's been many times where I've seen that pocket collapse for them, and I think he's a good fit for them.
Yeah, I think that'd be a great fit. I think I do have him going to the AFC also. Denver would be a great fit for him. Drew Lock probably not going to be the quarterback there next year for all 16 games. Maybe he'll start, week 1 or something, but I see him looking somewhere in the draft. But a team I see him going to, I think a team that's looking to, reinforce their O-line, really give protection to the future number 1 overall pick, the Jacksonville Jaguars, baby. Trent Williams, this is a young team. This is a team with a new head coach, a presumptive new quarterback in Trevor Lawrence, young receivers, young defense, and Trent Williams would add that veteran spark. He would, really help fix the depleted O-line that we saw all of last year, really. And, he'd be a veteran leader for that team. He's a Hall of Famer, like I was just saying. Trevor Lawrence would be a great mentor to him. As weird as that sounds, left tackle mentoring a quarterback, but I see it happen. Trent Williams he's a natural born leader on and off the field, and he's a great football player. And Jacksonville's got the cap space, they got the money, and if they can make a run at him and really, re-up that O-line, then that would be tremendous. And really, put them one step in the right direction in contention, which I think they're already headed to with Trevor Lawrence, and they're going to be a contender for years to come.
Yeah, that's definitely a good fit right there. I mean, like you said, veteran status on a young team that really needs somebody at that tackle position, because, I mean, James Robinson's going to need help if he's going to run that football. So, I mean,
they just tagged Cam Robinson, the other tackle on the team. So,
yeah,
line up the Robinson bros, James, Cam, and then Williams on the outside on the left tackle too. Yeah. This could be a scary, front seven for the not front seven because it's not defense, but up front for the Jaguars.
Absolutely, I totally agree with you right there. I think right now for me, the biggest free agent right now, it's going to be Shaq Barrett. I mean, Shaq Barrett has proven himself to be an amazing presence, especially with help leading that Tampa Bay Buccaneers team to a Super Bowl and winning that Super Bowl. But it's crazy because he's looking to cash in once again on a big payday. And looking at his stats from this season, only 8 sacks and 43 tackles, but he did have 2 forced fumbles last season.
Yeah.
His tenure with the Denver Broncos was solid, but you see last season, 19.5 sacks with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and they only signed him to a 2-year deal. So, I mean, for the Bucs, it's crucial that you cash in and sign this guy. But
how much
this guy wants to get paid.
Spend? How much do they have to spend? How much do they want to give it to Shaquille Barrett? Because, we saw Shaq Barrett last year, like you were saying, only 8 sacks, coming off of a near 20 sack season in 2019. He is definitely an elite pass rusher in this league. He's going to make any team's defense better. He's going to give an explosive off the edge. And, I honestly think that, should the Bucs re-sign him, that would be the goal, certainly. But will they be able to? I don't really think they will. I think they're going to let him walk. He's going to get a payday somewhere else, and that's a big number too. 19.5 sacks. It's going to be on everyone's radar. And, that's the year that it really solidified Shaq Barrett as we know it. For a lot of seasons, if you remember that in 2019, Chet, he was the candidate for Defensive Player of the Year the entire year, and somehow didn't win it, even with almost 20 sacks.
Yeah, it's crazy how he didn't win
Crazy.
that. But of course, that was Stephon Gilmore's crowning moment for him. And,
Yeah. You just gotta love Gilmore, dude.
Yeah. And right now,
peace out, Stephon Gilmore, though. So
I mean, potentially, we'll see what happens to that man. But for the most part, I mean, looking at this team, looking at teams that could really sign him, I think a team, if they really want to bulk up, I think a team that could make a run for him is the Indianapolis Colts. I think the Colts could really use that to their pass rushing ability. Imagine that. You get DeForest Buckner in a trade last season, and then you get Shaq Barrett, a guy who's nearly named Defensive Player of the Year 2 seasons ago. And you're really building up that defense that already has the talents of Darius Leonard, Anthony Walker, and DeForest Buckner. Justin Houston is almost on his way out. So if you really want to secure what you have here on this team, I think you make a run for this guy, because Shaq Barrett, he's an all-around scary pass rusher, and him and Jason Pierre-Paul on that edge for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
It was literally horrifying to Pat Mahomes. It was
monstrous.
Crazy.
It made my stomach churn just watching those tackles just get destroyed, pancaked out of their minds to the point where they're questioning, should I even get paid to do this anymore? Shaq Barrett is a monster, and I think if he goes to the Indianapolis Colts, I think we see this defense still stay on top as the number one defense, and even so, help lead this Colts team to a championship.
If he goes to the Colts, I think that really puts him in the top 3 teams in the AFC. And they're arguably a quarterback away from even being that last year too. I think it's them, the Chiefs, and the Bills right now, and they could be top 2 if they got this guy and they really pay dividends.
Yeah.
But a team I think he'd go to realistically, I think Tennessee Titans would be a great fit for him. We're looking at a team that really failed with the Vic Beasley signing last year. I think they signed him to a 1-year deal. They ended up cutting him midway through the year. He was a guy that they were hoping to come off the edge and make a big impact. But Shaquille Barrett, if he goes to that team, we're looking at the worst third down defense in the league last year. This team was last in the league in sacks in 2020. And Shaquille Barrett, if you're the Tennessee Titans and you have no pass rushers, and he's the second best free agent out there now, I think you got to take a look for him. I think they give him a payday, and it would pay dividends because they really got no one to rush the quarterback right now. That kind of cost them games at times. We saw a game where they lost the Cincinnati Bengals, for example, maybe through the season where they couldn't get Joe Burrow literally at all. So Shaquille Barrett, I think that would be a huge signing. I think the Titans make sense. I don't really think the Colts make too much sense. Maybe a little bit, because the defense is stout. They're paying a lot of guys in that defense, like Forrest Buckner, as you were saying. Like Darius Leonard is going to be due for a contract in a couple years too. So, if they sign him to maybe a 1 or 2 year deal, I could see that. I think he's going to try to go for a 4-year deal maybe. So I think a team like the Titans would be a great fit, in the AFC South also, Chet. And this is back-to-back me saying AFC South teams. I don't know what's my, thing with that division right now, but I think this division is going to make some plays this year to make a run at some things, man, because you got 2 really talented teams in that division with the Titans and Colts. The Jaguars up and coming in the draft. They're going to get their franchise quarterback, and the Texans really are the odd man out in that core. So I think this is going to be really competitive. I think it's all going to start in free agency.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I totally agree with you right there. Duffy, now give me another free agent. Let's hear another one right here.
Another free agent I want to talk about.
Yeah.
So, do you want to talk about the man who was signed yesterday?
Yeah, we can take a little break and talk about the man
who was being
legend.
paid $75 million in 2021, which is unbelievable. Rain Dakota Prescott, better known as Dak Prescott, man. America's team. We've been saying this every week. Pay this man, secure this man, just give him a bag. Obviously you want a ton of money. but he got it. He ended up winning. He bet himself, and he got it. So I'm going to give a really, great salute. I think he deserves your Oscar. I don't think you have it handy right now.
I don't have it with
But,
me right now,
Dak,
unfortunately.
he bet on himself. He didn't want to take that $30 million a year he was, offered last offseason. He signs for 4 years, $160 million on Monday, which is unbelievable. And he's going to be the second highest paid player in the league behind Mahomes, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And, shout out to Dak, man. He bet himself. Despite getting the injury, he absolutely balled out in those first 5 games. Had more passing touchdowns than Cam Newton. Had more receiving touchdowns than Mike Thomas. I saw that on Instagram today. So, Dak Prescott, man, I just want to say the biggest free agent was you. And now guess what, man? You got the bag, dude.
Yeah.
He secured it.
I think if there's anybody on this podcast who is a bit not like a bigger fan of Dak Prescott than me, you'd be dead wrong, because I am a huge fan of Dak Prescott. I mean, it's unbelievable. I've drafted this guy at least 3
you had him
times.
on your team
Twice.
last year, bro.
I had him the year before, too.
I had him on one of my teams. Last year was a 16-man league. He was the only reason I was doing well the first 5 weeks, because he was getting me like 35 points a game, dude.
You're telling me, man. I mean,
yeah.
I don't know what I can say that hasn't already been said by me about Dak Prescott. I mean, you look at the way his career has progressed. His first season, 3,667 passing yards and 23 touchdowns, all the way to 2019, when he reached 4,902 passing yards, over 1,000 more than 2018, with 30 touchdowns and 11 picks. I was
like
so
4,900 yards or something. He almost had 5,000 yards, and he would have made it this year too if he played all 16 games.
I'm telling you, just watching him this season, especially against teams when they were down, that 30-point comeback against the Atlanta Falcons, a near comeback against the Cleveland Browns. This man drops dimes when the time calls for it. And you know what? It's no better time than when Dak Prescott knows it's time to step up and really and just take on the load that the Dallas Cowboys give him, especially that defense that is atrocious that they really need to address. But for Dak, good for you, brother. Good for you. You stuck to your guns, and you definitely deserve Chet's Oscar this week, which I don't have on me. But Chet's Oscar is going to Dak Prescott. Oh,
Chet finds a little prop in his room.
Hold on.
Is it an Oscar? Or is that like a freaking little
Dak Prescott? You get Chet's Oscar.
How many
this
Oscars
week.
do you have, bro?
I had 3. I gave one to Tyler. I gave one to Tyler a while back.
He just looks in the corner of his room. Holy shit, it's an Oscar. Pardon my French.
You are awarded Chet's Oscar this week for Player of the Week. Enjoy it, my friend.
Player of the week, man, and I don't think this is a robbery either. A lot of people were saying he wasn't worth the type of money. I think he is personally, and the only way you're gonna be able to get him to stay. So, is he gonna win a lot of games? I think so. He's proven that year in year out. He averaged 11 wins a year almost before this season. So, he's gonna keep winning Oscars, man. He's gonna keep winning games.
He's gonna keep stealing them from people. I'm telling you, he's gonna steal it from many players on this show. But the thing, and the crazy part about Dak Prescott for me is, I remember he came out of nowhere in 2016 from the draft, and I was like, who in the hell is this guy? It just didn't compute who he was to me. I had no idea what this man's value was. And I definitely am one of those people who before said Dak Prescott sucks. He's no good. He's not going to be a successful quarterback in this league. But he consistently has proven me wrong every single year. And fantasy has proven that to me with his production that he's brought to me. But regardless, he makes smart decisions, and he is a field general who can do it all and has the talent to keep moving this team forward in a positive direction that the Dallas Cowboys have never seen before.
For sure. And, obviously you look at other things too with the Cowboys, Dak and Zeke taking up a ton of the cap, which could be, detrimental to them in the future. in terms of getting other big name players, but they are Dallas. They're going to reel in free agents anyways. They've drafted pretty well over the last few years. Guys like C.D. Lamb, who was a great acquisition in the draft last year. Michael Gallup, 1,000-yard receiver, trading for Amari Cooper too. This offense is stacked. They're going to put up points no matter what. They could be the highest scoring team in the league next year. You never know because they have the names. They have the O-line too, which was a little bit banged up last year, but getting Tyron Smith back is going to help them a lot. A lot of upside to look forward to in Dallas, and getting this man, as he's doing right here on the screen. That was, the biggest.
You can watch him on the screen.
That was the biggest move this offseason for sure.
Do you know what joke I was just referring to?
No, I have no clue.
Do you remember Sergio? What the heck was that guy's name who called? Remember the first game of the NFL season? They had that dude from ESPN.
The guy on the sideline who.
And he was like, "You can watch him right there on your screen."
He was asking like the dumbest questions. He was getting memed. I felt bad for the dude, bro, because he's just a guy living the dream, man. He's a Mexican kid doing an NFL game on Monday Night Football Week 1. That's the dream right there.
It is the dream, man. So there's definitely some nerves going on there. I'm sure if I went up there, I would probably have trouble.
What was the quote again you just said that he said? Because I don't remember a single thing he said. Dude. I just remember he was saying a bunch.
He was like I'll probably save the clip and play it from Chet's Film Corner sometime. But he was like, "You can watch him right there on the screen." That dude, regardless, congrats to Dak Prescott. He definitely deserved it. And unfortunately, that's all the time we have right here for our free agent section here of the show. When we get back, we're going to give you some insight to what the Boston Celtics need to do going down the second half of the season. A team that struggled here and there, but has had shining moments going into the All-Star break. And then we're going to talk about the Boston Bruins, who are finally hitting some blues, which we feared going into this season. So stay tuned. We will be right back after these messages.
Yes, sir.
Welcome back once again to Unapologetic with Chet and Duffy here on the Sports Fan Base Network, Rhode Island. Just to give you a heads up, even though hockey is officially over for live streams here on SFBN, we are going to be starting live streaming football. High school football is coming back this spring. We're taking a week break this week, but next week, that's when the games begin, and that's when games get live streamed. So head to SFBNRI.com. and click Watch Live Now, the big red button there on our website, and you will be able to see any of our live stream games that we have going on there around the state of Rhode Island. So definitely check that out. I will definitely be commentating some games along with Duffy here. So that's something. And football is what we live for, man. But of course, we're going to head into some basketball here.
You've been on Madden for too many years now, bro.
I still play, man. I'm still in a league right now. But starting off with
binging it earlier, but yeah.
But that All-Star break definitely needed for the Celtics to really get into their heads and understand what they need to do for their mission. I mean, they really did a great job with a 4-game win streak to end off the first half of the season, a win over the Pacers and then the Wizards. Then they beat the Clippers and the Raptors, 2 crucial games they really needed. But coming right out of the game on the 11th, they're going to be playing in Brooklyn against the Nets. Still no Durant yet. We'll see what happens there. But you're talking about Harden and Irving really trying to put up a tough task for Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum to really take on. So, Duffy, why don't you start us out with what they need to look for going into this game?
First of all, I gotta say, All-Star Weekend was the worst All-Star Weekend I've ever witnessed. By the way,
I never heard anything about it. I mean, I was so busy this weekend that I planned to watch the dunk contest and the All-Star game itself, but it sounds pretty forgettable for the most
it
part.
was more like All-Star Night. There was the dunk contest at halftime. It was so bad. Only three dudes, and it was mediocre as hell. And the game was bad too. I mean,
I heard
yeah,
my man Obi
it's a
Toppin was
joke.
going off though.
Obi Toppin, yeah, and he was the guy that you saw play last year. I didn't see him play, dude. I was disappointed because when he came to
Absolute
URI,
monster.
that was the day I was leaving on my flight to go to Spain. So I was really disappointed
right.
I couldn't see him. That was right before COVID hit. I think it was the last game at the Ryan Center before
It was.
it all went down, which is memories to early 2020. But Celtics, man, Jaylen Brown, JT coming back from the All-Star break, both balled out in the game. I was very excited to see that very young tandem in Atlanta this weekend. Jaylen Brown's hometown, by the way. So, yeah, it was a great home win for him. It was a great weekend for the Celtics. Much needed break. But a 4-game win streak heading into the All-Star break for the Celtics. And I think one of the things we were talking about when they were losing a lot was I think we actually were talking right after the podcast of the week, and they were down against the Atlanta Hawks by like 20 points. And I think that was the last game they actually lost. They've won 4 games since.
Yep.
A lot of help from a lot of different areas. They've taken advantage of being these banged up teams. They just beat the Raptors without Siakam, without someone else was missing too. But Celtics, getting a lot of help from a lot of areas. Kemba Walker really bouncing back from a really rough patch in the year where he was perennially shooting 4 of 20 from the field. Tatum, he was having a rough stretch too. Several games where he was in less than 20 points. I think he's averaging about 25 a game this season. He had 27 and 12 against the Raptors right before the All-Star break, and getting help from a lot of different areas. Robert Williams really coming into his own. The last month of the league, I think he was in the top 3 in the league off the bench in blocks, and I believe it was points per or rebounds a game, which is crazy. He's really going to be a big factor for this team down the stretch. So, a lot of different things clicking together for this Celtics team.
Mm-hmm.
They're back over 500, which is huge for this squad that was struggling pretty bad at 15 and 17. And, they're right back in the mix of things. Are they an Eastern Conference contender yet? I don't really think so to make a run for a championship. But second half of the season, a lot of things go down. And I think I was saying it last week with Ben on the show, that 2012 Celtics team, if you remember, similar vibe, lockout shortened season. This year, obviously, a COVID shortened season, but, they were under 500 at the All-Star break too, and they came back and made the finals second half of the year. So, Celtics team, yeah, it's a team that was 2 games away from the finals last year. And if they can just pick up the pieces this second half of the season and really start playing their best basketball, then I think they can win a playoff series or maybe 2.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely have some strong potential. Definitely a big thing for them is Marcus Smart will be playing. He has missed the past month with a calf strain, and that's definitely going to bring some production back to this offense. They definitely need that point guard back in his position for them. But definitely something that's been big for the Celtics was the bench has really been stepping up for them in these games, and especially like we mentioned last week against the Clippers. They were definitely very crucial in terms of helping this team win that game.
For sure.
And against the Raptors, I mean, looking at the statistics right here, you're talking about looking at this bench. Only one person on the bench didn't score any points. The rest, all double digits in terms of scoring. And then Tatum with 27. You got Jaylen Brown with 21 and Kemba Walker with 15. And then Thompson with 13. I mean, if they keep this trend up and keep that chemistry cooking, I think we'll see this team do very well. But, of course, the Brooklyn Nets are going to be a tough task. They're second right now in the Atlantic. Celtics are 5 games out, which does make that light at the end of the tunnel a little bit sweeter for them. But at 19 and 17 right now, I think this team really could be doing a lot better than they are right now.
For sure. Like you were saying with Marcus Smart, it's a huge point. Marcus Smart been one of the best defenders in the league since he's walked in to the NBA. And we're looking at a Celtics team that's allowed over 100 points in each of their last 9 games. So with Smart coming back, he's missed a lot of games. Celtics have allowed a lot of points. It's been very un-Celtics-esque for them to allow this many points and to not play that tough physical defense, which they're prone to doing. But with Marcus Smart back, he's the heart and soul of that defense. So with him. I think that he's going to be he's a huge piece there missing the puzzle, because he's been a very crucial sixth man off the bench, the last 5 seasons. He's never really been a perennial starter, really, except for I think it was 2017 or something. But I'm just excited to see him back, and he's exactly what the Celtics need to come back. Just a guy that can, play defense and shoot the three. He's really improved his 3-point game, and I think he's going to be really pivotal on both sides of the ball too.
Absolutely. And I mean, the month of March right now, as I look at the Celtics schedule, it's going to be tough. They do face some very interesting teams coming into this month. I mean, looking right off the bat, you got the Brooklyn Nets, but then the following week on the 16th, you play the Utah Jazz in Boston. That is huge for them for that home court advantage.
Team they lost to bad last time too.
Yes. And Utah right now is currently the best team in the NBA right now. They are just on fire in all categories. So it's crucial for them to win games like the next 2 coming up. But then they play Milwaukee at the end of the month on Wednesday. And then the following Friday, both games will be in Milwaukee. And if they really want to overtake the Bucks, it's going to be these crucial games in between. Because, I mean, looking at the schedule, it's not as difficult as it seems. But looking at teams like losing to the Atlanta Hawks and the Washington Wizards and the Sacramento Kings earlier in the season, they do play Sacramento again. But the thing is
just about to say that, Chet.
This team
that they already lost to.
This team just needs to figure out what it's doing going into these games, because if you lose games to teams that aren't really up there, it's going to be a problem.
For sure, it's going to be a big problem. They got to beat these teams that they're supposed to beat. And, they were doing it these last few games. They're taking advantage of teams' weaknesses and injuries. We're going to see that from other teams in the future, too. Hopefully not the Celtics. Knock on some wood there.
And, absolutely.
Yeah, going to have to hit their stride and just keep winning big games. And even if they lose these games, at least be competitive in them. Like you're saying, the Nets tomorrow night, it's going to be a huge game with Harden and Kyrie. I don't know if KD's back. Yeah, I doubt he is because he missed the All-Star game.
Yeah, I think that let me see what his status is right now. It says, 3 days ago, they were saying that he may be back, but he might be coming off the bench if he were to play right out of the gate.
That's weird. KD off the bench doesn't sound right. I don't like
it. Doesn't.
I doubt he'll do that anyways.
No.
These superstars, they hate to come off the bench. Looking at their career totals, games started, games played.
Especially nowadays.
Ego's at an all-time high. So
absolutely. Especially.
I doubt that'll happen.
Absolutely. Especially in a league like this.
If that's the case, with KD out, go take advantage, man. Win that game, Boston.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely take advantage of that situation. Now to wrap up this segment, we're going to talk about the Boston Bruins real quick. The Bruins, they've hit some blues lately, and the problem is scoring. Scoring has become a huge problem for this team as they've been outshot in most of their games. And looking at the last 2 games that they've lost, they lost 1-0 to the New Jersey Devils. They lost to the Capitals 2-1 before they beat them 5-1. And then the Islanders is the most recent game they lost 2-1. So you're looking at the trend where they were at the start of the season. We see them getting around 4 to 5 goals a game. And then problems begin to happen. You see games like they lose to the Islanders 7-2. The New York Rangers, out of all teams, they lose 6-2. The Capitals, they're a tough team. And they had our number in a few games, but so far, Bruins have still held their own against them. But these last 2 games have been unacceptable for the Boston Bruins. And to look at the way the team has scored, they just look completely out of sync on the ice. And for me, as a Bruins fan, it's definitely unacceptable to see a team that was one of the top scoring teams in terms of goals and points in the NHL has now dropped from first place to 4th in the East. And now you look at the Islanders on top with 36, the Capitals in second with 34, and the Pittsburgh Penguins at third with 31 points. definitely some tough teams in that division, and the Bruins, they just need to figure something out chemistry-wise to really get that puck moving.
Yeah, and that's something I was talking about last week too. That lack of offense, because right now the Bruins are 24th in the league in goals for. So they really got to get the puck in the net. Simple as that. They're really a team that was relying a lot on their defensive capabilities rather than goal scoring. Winning these very low scoring games, like you were saying, that 1-0 loss to the Devils, really inexcusable if we're going to be honest, because the Devils, one of the youngest, rebuilding teams in the league, they've not been good for a while. Bruins really, obviously it's a regular season game. They have a lot more opportunities to bounce back, but if you're a Boston Bruins fan, you're going to want to hope for some more offense, for some more goal scoring, and pretty much just win these games like the Celtics that they're supposed to be winning, because they've been really falling in that category. Losing 5 of their last 7 games, some of which to lowly teams in their division. And, simple as that, they got to close out these games and, beat the teams that they have not been successful against, those top of the teams in the division, such as pictured here, the New York Islanders, who they've lost to several times this year. I think they're 0-3 against them now, maybe. Capitals too, and the Pittsburgh Penguins, 2 championships in the last 5 years. So Boston Bruins, a lot of upside in this team, a lot of talent still. They're going to be a playoff team in my eyes. So if they can just get hot at the right time, and then I'm not going to worry too much about them. But, it all starts in March too. You got to be consistent at this point of the season too, especially against these teams that you're playing. Keep in mind, these are the only teams they're playing against, these 7 teams in their division. So you got to get their number and really, really find a way to make things work.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think to finish off with our analysis of the Boston Bruins right now, goaltending has definitely been a huge struggle for them, because, looking at Tuukka Rask is no stranger to this. He right now, for goals allowed, 246 on his save percentage. And of course, that's 16th in the league. And then you're looking at teams like the Vegas Golden Knights, who have Marc-Andre Fleury with 1.57 goals allowed this season. And just looking at that, at the 246 at 16th, it's not terrible.
That's per game?
That's per game.
Damn.
It's not terrible, but it's not good. It's not good. So it's tough to say, because Tuukka Rask is Tuukka Rask, and to be honest, it's the way it is. It's tough right now in the regular season, but once playoffs come, it's a totally different ball game. We can talk about this all the time, saying any team can win in the playoffs, but you definitely need to establish yourself here. This is a team that scored the most points last season and has scored multiple points before. They need to figure out how to get that scoring up again so they can really climb their way up this conference to really set themselves in a good place here in the East. Because the Bruins, they're good right now, but I definitely don't want to see them sneaking in as a bottom tier seed, because they're better than this.
Absolutely.
But anyways.
Not underperform. That's key.
Definitely key for both Boston Celtics and Bruins. Bruins definitely have much more upside.
That same goal, honestly.
Yeah. Bruins have good upside, but right now it's almost like a complete opposite shift that we're looking at between the Celtics and Bruins right now. We'll see as time goes on, but definitely some good things we're seeing out the Celtics finally. Bruins just need to figure some things out. They're hitting their blues right now, so hopefully they can figure some things out to turn around.
It's the worst we've ever seen Boston sports. So
yes, absolutely. I just hope we see something better in the coming days. But of course,
hopefully,
we'll see you next week. Chet and Duffy are about to sign off here. So just as a heads up, we do live stream every Wednesday at 7 p.m. And next week's going to be big, because we're going to be analyzing all of these big free agents that are going to be signing with teams here on SFBNRI, Unapologetic with Chet and Duffy. Thank you for tuning in this week, and we will see you all next week. And once again, as usual, we are signing off. Go Pats.
Go Pats, guys, and stay safe.
Stay safe.
Peace.
Peace.